Afternoon, Cherries fans, and welcome to the latest in our opposition preview shows. After our FA Cup game against Oldham Athletic, we return to league action for the rearranged game against Millwall. Remember, this game was due to take place on Boxing Day, but was rearranged due to coronavirus cases in the Lions camp. I speak on behalf of all Bournemouth fans and hope that all Millwall players have got over that situation. Today, I have with me Neil Fissler, Millwall fan and journalist with the rugby paper and co-host on the Millwall Podcast. Afternoon, Neil. How are you?
Not too bad, Craig. How are you, mate? You all right?
Yeah, very well. Thanks, mate. So firstly, before we start talking about football, you are a journalist with the rugby paper, and I'm sure that, like in all sports at the moment, coronavirus has had an effect. How much of an effect has it had on your role?
To be honest, it's not really affected me. I'm a news writer. I'm a columnist and write historical stuff. So I just get on with it as per normal. There's a little bit less going on at times. I write transfers and that kind of thing. So it's just starting to pick up now. It was dead for weeks and weeks and weeks. But they've got their government bailout money, so they seem to be setting about spending it for next season, and plans now for next season are taking place. So players are starting to move more and more. But really, the day-to-day operation, I work from home, so it doesn't really affect me. And the way that clubs adapt now, you don't have to go to training grounds. Everything's done on Zoom and StreamYard, isn't it? So
it certainly is. So, of course, you're a massive Millwall fan, and Millwall currently sits 17th in the Championship with 25 points from 21 games. But last season, you had a pretty good season, finished 8th, just outside the playoffs. What was the expectation going into this year, and what's so far has gone wrong, Neil?
Well, blimey, how long have we got here? I think the expectation was that we built our own hopes up, I think. Last season was one where we were absolutely devastated when we lost a game at QPR, which meant we couldn't finish in the playoffs. And this season we thought that we would push on from that. We signed Troy Parrott on loan from Tottenham, and we thought that he would be the answer to our prayers, which was somebody to put the ball in the back of the net, which is actually our number one problem. It was our problem last season. It's our problem this season. We just don't score enough goals. Part of that problem is because we don't create enough chances. So obviously you don't create enough, you don't score enough, do you? So we've drawn a lot of games. We're quite difficult to beat at times, but putting the ball in the back of the net is a serious, serious problem for us.
And, of course, you have got Conor Mahoney in the Millwall ranks, and he used to be with the Cherries. How has Conor done since joining the Lions?
It's a bit of an enigma, actually. He's a kind of player that we're actually screaming out for at the minute. We want creative players. We want somebody to play on the opposite side to Jed Wallace. Jed Wallace probably before lockdown this time last year, probably one of the best players in the division, was superb in every game, kind of player that you could see us selling for 13, 14, 15 million pounds. Now we'd be lucky to get 15 pence for him, I think. But Conor Mahoney, the kind of player that we need. He's a frustrating player, isn't he? I think you might agree. Yeah. He's got plenty of ability there. It's just a question of getting that ability out and getting him to perform. Frustrating because I think in the last few weeks he's been injured, I think, since November, a quad injury or something. And I think he was never present pretty much until that time. He's the kind of player that, if you look at the goals he scored a few goals for Millwall, where he takes a player on, he gets to the edge of the box, and then he'll find that bottom corner. And that's the kind of creative player that we're actually absolutely crying out for, because we put too much emphasis on Jed Wallace and we've got nothing on the other side. And I really, really want to see Conor Mahoney back, and I want to see Conor Mahoney flying and doing well. You always want to see every player do well, don't you?
Yeah, of course. And he's a very nice guy. I've met him on a couple of occasions. He didn't actually play any games for Bournemouth, his first team, of course, during the Premier League years. But I think there's a lot of talent there, and hopefully he'll eventually fulfil that with Millwall.
But we paid £1.1 million for him, and
Yes.
we haven't actually spent that much money on players. I think he's only about the third player that we've ever paid £1 million for. And if you pay £1 million down at Millwall, you better be Lionel Messi. If you're not Lionel Messi, well,
well, one player that did jump out to me was Alex Pearce. Now, having a look, he's listed as the club captain, and of course he was somebody who previously played in the Premier League as well, but he's only played 29 games for the club since joining at the end of May 2019. What's the story there, Neil?
I think he's the formation he plays. He in and out the side. He's getting a little bit old, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's he now? 34, 35, something like that.
Yeah, something around that, isn't he?
And he's behind. We've got two very, very solid centre halves in Jake Cooper, Reading, former Reading, and Sean Hutchinson, former Fulham player. Very, 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 very solid pairing. So he really only gets a look in if we play three at the back. He's a kind of player that he's solid and dependable. And he's a leader, which I think we lack at times. We lack a lot of leadership. Mm-hmm. And he certainly brings that. When Gary Rowett caught COVID a couple of months ago, he actually took charge of the team for 2 games. Yeah. First game up at Preston, we absolutely annihilated them. The second game at home, I think it was against Huddersfield, absolutely appalling. Yeah. Absolutely awful. But you can see that there's something there. But it's just unfortunate that times kept marching up with him, as it does to all of us, I guess. Yeah. And that he's competing against 2 very, very, very good players in Jake Cooper and Sean Hutchinson. And we've also got a guy called Murray Wallace, who I think will be back from suspension in time for Tuesday night.
And you mentioned the game against Preston. We played Preston, about a month ago. And apart from Brentford, they were the best team that we come up against. What was the solution to beating them for yourselves?
I think we just got up and at them. And we played them at Deepdale. And apparently their home record is absolutely woeful.
Yeah, it is.
And we just absolutely played them off the park. We were absolutely superb. It's one of the few games where we've actually looked like the team from the end of last season, where we were going to kick on and do something, but they were absolutely woeful. But to be fair, I think that performances have picked up from them since then, haven't they?
They have, yeah. They've started to get some decent results at Deepdale, but before, and they're
spending some money as well. And they're spending some money. They've just bought in Jason Malumbi, who was at Millwall last season, and who we wanted back. And I think they're after 1 or 2 others. So they're not a bad side, but we just absolutely crucified them. We played them off the park, and it was probably one of our best performances of the season.
And do tell us a little bit more, Neil, about the rest of the Millwall players. You mentioned a couple there, but the rest of the team.
Right, we've got Bart Białkowski in goal. I hope I'm saying that right. Polish goalkeeper, current player of the year. Very, very good shot stopper. Signed him from Ipswich, player of the year last season. Right back could be Marlon Romeo, son of Jazzy B. I don't know if you remember Jazzy B.
Oh, I remember Jazzy B, yes.
His son tends to play in a right wing-back role, so get forward, takes his time coming back and couldn't cross a road, to be honest. at times. He gets into positions, and then his final ball is absolutely woeful. Although we've just signed a guy, we've just recalled a guy called Danny McNamara from St Johnstone. We sent him up there, and apparently he was superb. So they've just recalled him. So I don't know if he's in the plans for the next few weeks. Left back, we could have Murray Wallace suspended, got sent off actually last weekend for 2 yellow cards, got sent off in the last minute. So always frustrates me for a second yellow card in the last minute when you're getting hammered. Honestly, what's the point? But he's a no nonsense Millwall type player, takes no prisoners. Actually, probably my favourite player in the team at the minute. Epitomises everything that Millwall is. No frills, no spills. What you see is what you get. Hard-working player. Midfield, we've got Ryan Woods, who's dividing opinion at the minute. We weren't playing very well, dropped him, and things suddenly picked up just in time for Christmas, and then we got COVID. We've got Jed Wallace, who I think we've touched upon. Very, very good creative player. We've got Ben Thompson, homegrown in midfield. Ryan Leonard, whose dad actually lives near me. Another player who blows hot and cold. Sometimes is absolutely superb. Can pop up outside the box and smack one in from 25 yards. Love those kind of players. Up front's our real problem. John Daddy Bavardson, Icelandic international. Funnily enough, has actually started to find a little bit of form. Other than that, has been woeful for most of the season. Tom Bradshaw, Welsh international striker, very pacey. Doesn't score as many goals as he should do, but then again, I don't think we play to his strengths at times. We could play the ball into him. He more wants somebody like Matt Smith, who's also there. Big burly striker. Troy Parrott on loan from Tottenham. Apparently knows how to score, but we haven't seen much evidence. But then again, he's had 2 or 3 injuries this season. Has to unfortunately drop too deep for the ball. It all boils down to that problem of creating chances. I think if we put the ball in the penalty area for him, he'll score plenty. And then if he's still around and still fit, we've got a guy called Ken Sahor on loan from West Bromwich Albion, who actually scored in that Preston game, and Alex Pearce left him on for too long, and he got injured and was out for 2 months because he was actually lacking match fitness. Big, powerful guy up front, actually, against Coventry last weekend. When we were getting we got played off the park in the first half. It was embarrassing. But then they put Parrott and Zahor on, and we started to look like a decent team. Plenty of pace, plenty of power. And we started to cause them some problems. Unfortunately, we were 3-0 down at the time, so it was a bit pointless.
Do you think that some of the issues might be caused by the lack of fans in the stadium? Because, of course, I've been to Millwall before, and Millwall fans are the most passionate fans, one of the most passionate fans in English football. So it makes the Den a bit of a daunting place for anybody. Do you feel that that's had a big effect on the team and a big impact?
I think it's a problem right the way across the board. I think if you look at football statistics, I'm not a statistician or anything, but a lot of teams are struggling to play at home, aren't they? And
yeah, they are.
And results, away teams are finding it a lot easier. At Millwall, it's a funny thing at Millwall because we are such a pain in the ass to play in front of. You'd actually have thought that you were Lionel Messi signed for Millwall, and his first misplaced pass, he'd be getting dogs abuse from the old boys, and everybody else would be clambering off the side, best player in the world, and all of that lot. So you'd think that our own players would you would actually relax and enjoy the experience of not having us there.
Yeah.
But it seems to have actually had the opposite effect, because sometimes when they're not playing well, we're very quick to let them know. And I think sometimes they need that. But away teams certainly can relax, pass the ball around. And sometimes I think we make it easier for teams because we do back off them and there's nobody hanging off the sides. And I think, well, we were just talking when we came on air about the last time Bournemouth played there, I think was in the FA Cup, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, yeah.
When you were in the Premier League. And I think that, even though it wasn't, I can remember the game because it was around about this time of the year, wasn't it? It was bitterly cold, and
I
think there was a fair few in there. And if you get an atmosphere or you get a big crowd in Millwall for a big game, there's no better place to be in English football. And I'll argue with anybody that says there is, because there isn't. The place just rocks. You get people hanging off the side. You never know what the crowd's going to do.
Yeah,
it's just one of those things that is just superb. Absolutely great.
And it's fair to say that day in the FA Cup, it was a couple of years back now, we were quite atrocious. But then again, Millwall, we can't discredit what you did.
You felt the weakened side as well, didn't you? I can remember going on to Twitter and criticising Eddie House, saying, well, we'd rather have beaten your first team and things like that. Play in the Premier League. Yeah, fair enough. I suppose you look at that. But yeah, no, it was a good game from what I can remember.
But that was a question that's been brought up in the past with regards to Eddie Howe and whether or not he took the FA Cup that seriously. But it shows it was no fluke because, of course, Millwall got to the semi-finals that year.
Yeah, we and I think it was actually in the next round we actually knocked out the champions of England at the time, which were Leicester.
Yeah.
Sean Cummins popped up, I think, in the last minute of injury time and popped one in the bottom corner for us. And Jamie Vardy certainly wasn't having a party that afternoon. I tell you. And I think that Claudio Ranieri got sacked. I think it was the following week.
Yeah, it was shortly after the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And I can remember one of their players was actually too frightened to come over and take a throw in at one stage. because it was one of those typical afternoons that we had a big team there. They bought a huge following. The place was rocking. It was making me smile just think about it because we're all banned from grounds, we're all locked down, we can't do anything, and suddenly we start talking about a game where we beat the Premier League champions, and it leaves you all fuzzy, doesn't it? It leaves you nice.
The thing is with Millwall is that you have got that tag that nobody likes Millwall and you don't care. But at the same time, it's a great place to have in English football, a great team to have in English football. A team that have got that edge to it and is, let's be fair, nobody likes going to the Den. And, that's a good atmosphere really to have from your perspective, I guess.
Yeah, see, the woke age he's nowhere near Bermondsey yet.
Yeah.
Nowhere near. Yeah, well, we've surrounded, and I'm surprised they haven't stuck up signs. Woke isn't welcome here or something. We are proper old school, and I think some ways that's a hindrance, but some ways it's refreshing. Because if you're an old fuddy-duddy like me, and we're all living in, it's just somewhere where it's some ways it's like the land that time forgot.
Yeah,
and but that's good. And you have to be a special breed to be a Millwall fan. I think we've all. we're all the naughty boys at the back of the class, and you probably remember those ones, the ones that used to flick stuff on rulers and used to torment the teachers, and you've got to have a special kind of mentality, I think, to be a Millwall fan. Yeah, but there is a song, no one likes us, we don't care. Secretly, a lot of people do that support us. They care more than they'll ever let on, but it's good. It's a great feeling, and it's just something that we can't experience at the minute. I'm absolutely desperate to go back to the Den. I should have gone. I think the last time I was going to go, we were going to welcome a certain Mr. Rooney.
Yes,
just before lockdown, and that was going to be an afternoon and a half. All of his misdemeanors. There's no way he was going to be able to forget one of those misdemeanors.
No, most definitely. I've got to ask you, Neil, because I ask every single person that comes on our show, how do you think it's going to go on Tuesday?
Do you know what? If you'd have asked me, I think when you originally said, can we do this show?
Yeah.
We were doing awful. And I thought, oh, no, because our Christmas campaign should have been away at you, away at Bournemouth, home against Watford. I think Watford have just sacked however many managers they've sacked this season. I can't even keep up with it. And then things started to pick up, and you thought, oh, no. Can we just have a couple of easy games over Christmas? Typical Millwall. Life's bad enough at the minute. Christmas is to cheer you up, and then Millwall will come along and gnaws it all up for you. And I thought, Bournemouth, because to all intents and purposes, I think you've still got the majority of your squad from the Premier League, haven't you? I know you've lost the likes of Callum Wilson and one or two players, but the vast majority of your squad played in the Premier League last year, and you've started to pick up results. You're capable of spanking teams, aren't you?
Yes,
You've got Solanke fit, and I think he scored and a couple of goals around about the time that we were originally going to do this, and you thought, oh no, here we go. Boxing Day down at Dean Court, or whatever you call the stadium these days. And it's always a home win fixture. I think we were just talking about it, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, well, over the last few years, whoever's at home seems to win. And but then again, that's the kind of game that we're quite likely to go out and decide, actually, we quite fancy this. We've knackered our Christmas by bringing us down here. So let's go out and put on a proper performance. The better the opposition, usually the better we play. So, and then obviously we were locked down for 2 weeks, couldn't play, so we missed this game, that game. We played Coventry last weekend, best forgotten. I'm going to say I quite fancy our chances. I'm probably the famous last words, and I'm going to get dog's abuse for this.
Go, what's your score prediction, Neil?
Oh, see, we don't score many goals. We don't score many goals, so I think it will be 1-0 to Millwall.
No, fair enough.
What are you going to go for?
I know that Mill can perform, can do, hurt teams. Like you say, Bodvarsson, if he's going to be playing up front, I remember he was at Reading, wasn't he, beforehand as well? Right. And he didn't do very well there either. I'm hoping, we can carry on our good form. It is our game in hand. If we win it, we do go back into the top 2.
You're making this worse now, mate. You're starting to fill me with dread.
So I've got to go for a 2-1 win. Yeah, I think 2-1. I think you probably get one against us, but
yeah, well, I'd settle for that actually, as long as we don't get spanked.
Yeah. Well, you never know. We did thrash Huddersfield a few weeks back.
Yeah, but they beat us 3-1, I think it was, at home. Funnily enough, when I think it was when Alex Pearce was manager of us.
They're a funny side, though. That's what I would say with Huddersfield. They're a bit up and down. They get results. They're not one for the accumulator, so to speak.
You were neither away, especially if you bet on goal. Yeah, well, go on.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this opposition preview, Neil. It's been an absolute pleasure, and all the very best for the future. And do just very quickly tell us how anybody who wants to listen to That Millwall Podcast can listen to it.
Yeah, well, That Millwall Podcast, we're on all good and bad podcast providers, Apple, Spotify, Red Circle, I believe, and we broadcast 3 times a week. We generally do a match preview or match review on a Sunday/Monday, a former player interview. We've got some pretty good ones up there on a Wednesday, and then we do the standard weekend preview on a Friday.
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure that there's a link in the description as well. So anybody who does want to go and listen to That Millwall Podcast can do. Thanks for your time, though, Neil. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, Craig. Been absolutely superb, mate.
Cheers. Thank you. So thank you again for joining me on this opposition preview. Remember, after the game, we will have our famous free thrills. So please do join us for that. And Tom Jordan will be doing his player ratings. Until next time, up the cherries, and I'll see you in the next video.